Thank you for coming to my webinar today. My name is Colin. I'm the Senior Fitness Specialist here in LOLfit Fitness Center. And I hope if we take one thing away from the presentation is that we all can benefit from strength training in one way or another. So today we're going to talk about a few ways you can train to gain strength, because when properly performed, you can produce dramatic improvements in your muscular strength, your tone, endurance, bone strength, cardiovascular efficiency, flexibility, and body composition. So for our agenda, we're going to starting off talking about the importance of strength training, do a quick myth versus fact segment, which I'm excited for that. We're going to talk about strength versus cardiovascular system, what the guidelines are for strength, some methods for training or types of training you can do for strength, functional fitness, and then at the end, I want to save some time to hear from you. So as we go through some of this today, consider your goals, consider what you hope to walk away with from the presentation. And if we don't get to some specific topics or questions you had, I want to make sure we have time for that, or to come see me or reach out, because I want to make sure all questions about strength are answered. So the importance of strength training. So again, thinking about those goals as we work through this presentation, because goals for strength training are going to vary among people throughout your life. And just keep those in the back of the mind, whether that's going to be for sports, recreation, your appearance, maintaining health, or trying to recover from an injury. Those are all great goals you can set for building or keeping strength, as well as just being functional, being able to move throughout daily activities with ease, mobility, balance. So just keep your goals in the back of your mind. As strength training, some positives, or as it increases, so it's going to increase our overall physical fitness. And I want to talk more so about that, about bone density and osteoporosis. So osteoporosis, peak bone density usually is going to happen around 18 to 25 years old. That's going to be when we peak mass. That can sometimes grow usually until around 80, or sorry, not 80, around 30. And that's our peak right between 20s to 30s of our peak bone mass. And generally, we're going to start losing it after that. So it's one of those, you got to use it or lose it when it comes to our muscle mass and our peak bone mass. So we want to age gracefully, and that is a part of strength training. So there is no more important reason or takeaway from strength training to be a constant part in your life than other to ensure that we are aging gracefully. We want to make sure that we are physically active to keep us alive and vibrant, and strength training will ensure that we are strong enough to participate in everyday activities, recreational sports that we enjoy and that we want to continue to enjoy. I know everyone has hobbies, or after we retire, we want to be able to do what we want to do. We want to be able to play with our kids, play with our grandkids, and making sure we are physically strong enough to do that is important. So with strength, it's going to increase our muscle mass, which that also increases your metabolism. And as it increases your metabolism, that means the rate in which you burn calories is going to be higher at rest, which is a positive increase from strength training. Injury prevention, as we are able to prevent some of those falls or a wide variety of sports-related, life-related injuries can be prevented from strong muscle mass, which is going to protect our joints and our soft tissue. Improved balance, so flexibility, mobility, stability, being stronger and more resilient is going to help improve our balance, which is going to make daily life tasks easier. So carrying groceries, carrying just bags, dog food, picking up children, grandchildren. We're going to be able to be more comfortable living with fewer falls or accidents. And it also is going to help increase our mood. Another quick thing about osteoporosis that I want to mention is that, so typically people that are physically inactive are going to lose, or can lose, as much as 3 to 5% of their muscle mass per decade after the age of 30. Even if you are active, you will still experience some muscle loss, but not as much as if you are inactive. In a 1998 article from the Journal of Nutrition, they reported that a cross-section of research showed that overall loss was to be about 35 to 45% between the ages of 20 to 80 of our muscle mass. And some research reports that change happens as early as in your 20s. But most of that significant change is going to take place after the age of 50, depending on our nutrition and depending on our strength training. Yes, but otherwise some decreases, not in a negative way, but a positive way. So decrease the risk of osteoporosis, decrease some of the losing strength as we age, some of our signs and symptoms of chronic disease, as well as that body fat. And that kind of ties right into our muscle mass and our metabolism rates. Moving on now to our Oh, there we go. Our myth or fact section. Well, we kind of got a glimpse of what that one is already, but muscle turns into fat, fat turns into muscle. As we saw there, that is a myth. So muscle and fat are completely different types of tissue, and we can't magically change them. Muscle shrinks, which is atrophy, when it's not used, and your muscles may seem softer. And compounding the problem, most people don't lower their calorie intake to match their lower energy needs. So if we were active and our diet reflect that activity, if we move into more of a sedentary inactivity lifestyle and the calories don't change with that, our energy needs are lower, then our intake should be lower, and that's kind of how the fat to muscle would work. But anyways, the result is less muscle mass and more calories being stored in fat. So that's your body composition shifts with the changing calories, but we can't magically, unfortunately, turn muscle into fat or fat into muscle. So they are different tissue types. Myth or fact, my basal metabolic rate is an important value to know regardless of if I want to gain weight or lose weight. That's a fact. The basal metabolic rate is something that I try to stress to tell everybody. It is the base value that our body burns calories at for 24 hours of rest. So if you were to be sick, lay in bed for 24 hours, your body has a base value that it's going to burn calories. So if we are trying to lose weight and we're in a calorie deficit, a lot of times people think like, oh, if I stop eating, then I'm going to lose weight. Well, actually, if we fall below this basal metabolic rate, we're going to start burning muscle mass because it's a lot easier to liquidate muscle than it is to burn fat. So we have to make sure that through activity and just regular body function, we stay above our basal metabolic rate in order to lose weight successfully. And on that flip side, building muscle, building strength, if we do still fall below that rate just through excessive activity or nutrition, we still won't be seeing the results we're looking for. So the basal metabolic rate is very important. If you're wondering how to find your specific basal metabolic rate, you want to look up TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure. There's calculators out there. Otherwise, I would be more than happy to help you through figuring that out and seeing what rates work best for you. Myth or fact, extra protein will increase muscle mass. That is a myth. So dietary protein is needed to sustain muscle growth, and glucose and fatty acids are the primary fuel for source for both endurance and strength training, not protein. And therefore, excess protein is only going to add excess calories to your diet. So that being said, don't stop eating protein or avoid protein. It's the main building block for the muscle. You still need it to incorporate strength training to add on that muscle. So protein alone will not increase muscle mass, but through activity with nutrition is where you'll see that increase in muscle mass. Myth or fact, adding strength training into my routine will help me gain muscle over time. I've already answered that right before. That is a fact. The intensity of your exercise and nutrition play a big role as well, but over time, with proper intensity or your program, you will increase muscle mass over time through strength training. Myth or fact, lifting weights will make me look bulky. That is a myth. Bulk up all you want. Your parents' genes play a big part in how ripped or how bulky you get, especially when it comes to women. Women don't have the hormones to create bulky muscles, so women have to lift extremely heavy weights at a very rigorous, long routine. We're talking years, decades, in order to gain big muscles of such a bulky size. Typically, women specifically will tone up rather than bulk up. So if you're worried strength training will call you to look like the Incredible Hulk, don't worry. Unless you are a genetic marvel, that's not going to happen. Myth or fact, I will burn more calories at rest if I have more muscle. That is a fact. The more muscle we have, the higher our metabolism rate is, the more calories we're burning at rest, kind of going back to that basal metabolic rate. So the more muscle we have, the more calories you will burn at rest or in movement in general. Myth or fact, the more you sweat, the leaner you get. That is a myth. So sweat does not equal leanness. Some people tend to sweat more than others due to their genetics, excess body weight, or poor conditioning. The intensity of your workout and calories burned is not reflected by how much you sweat. If you feel leaner after sweating, typically that's actually going to be due to the fact that your body becomes dehydrated, especially if you're an excessive sweater. So once you rehydrate, the pounds, sometimes it can be pounds, lost during sweating will return. I do want to state that losing weight through sweating can be extremely dangerous. So you don't always have to think about the success of your workout based off how much you sweat. There's a lot of other factors at play. And myth or fact, you cannot spot reduce to work off specific areas of your body. That is a fact. So unfortunately, there is no such thing as spot reduction. Your genes are going to determine where you lose fat from first. Strength training or strengthening your muscles can make you look thinner because you tone and you develop. So if there's certain areas, I want to lose some fat around my thighs, my hips, my neck, my arms, wherever it might be. Unfortunately, there's no I could do 10,000 crunches and it won't remove any of my belly fat. It all is determined about your muscles may look thicker, so you may tone up to develop, which may give the appearance of being thin, but again, you can't spot reduce. So no amount of crunches will help remove anything on my stomach, unfortunately. That's the end of our myth or fact section. So moving on, strength training versus cardiovascular. So many people focus on one form of exercise over the other. And I really want to stress here, before we dive too deep into strength, that it is crucial and important to incorporate both um, aerobic activity and strength training, as well as flexibility or balance into our routine for an overall healthy longevity, healthy lifestyle. For the cardiovascular, that's really mostly focusing on our heart and lungs, giving that a workout, which is great. The cardiovascular benefits are awesome, and I do want everyone to strive for that. As it pertains to cardiovascular system, the recommendation by the American College of Sports Medicine is that 150 minutes of moderate and or 75 minutes of vigorous activity a week go towards cardio alone. There's many different ways to achieve that, but that also can help with muscle endurance, depending on how we strength train. It can be more focused on endurance, which is more for that cardiovascular system. Or running, for example, that's muscle endurance. That won't train your legs. They can still get stronger, but that's more for endurance aspects. When it comes to strength training, that's more to increase your muscle strength or endurance for higher loads or the size of your muscle. Give your muscles that workout, and it will increase your metabolism rate because of the increased in muscle mass size. However, for vigorous strength training, you actually can increase your heart rate enough to be considered cardio. So depending on how your intensity or how hard you push yourself. Strength training guidelines. Feel free to take a picture of the next few slides, but we'll be going over this and then retouching on anything at the end if you have any more questions. So strength training guidelines. Free weights, machines, bands, and some body weight can be used to incorporate in strength training and in order to see the benefits we're looking for. Performing 8 to 10 multi-joint exercises that stress all major muscle groups are the guidelines for general strength training. So that makes sure we equally hit every main portion of our body, our chest, our back, shoulders, arms, legs, the quads, hamstrings, glutes, and calves, all included in that. We want to make sure that when we do lift, we are lifting with proper control and proper form. And a big note here, especially when we're talking about strength, is going to be that the last repetition, your last rep, should be difficult to complete. And it's usually the last 3 to 5 reps of any exercise we perform where we're going to see the most progress. So that takes us on the next slide. We're going to talk about more sets of reps. So I'm going to retouch on that in a minute, but the last rep should be difficult to complete. You should progressively increase the weight over time in order to for your body to kind of adapt and grow to the exercise we are doing. Standard recommendation, performing 4 to 8 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions of any exercise. When it comes to sessions a week, 2 to 3 sessions a week is the minimal recommendation by the American College of Sports Medicine for the general population. The general adult should be doing 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week, and that's aside from cardio. We still have our 150 and or 75 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity for that cardio. That should be included as well. Those strength training sessions can be anything from 20 to 30 minutes, or if you have more time, 60 to 120 minutes. The biggest thing I want to stress with guidelines is whatever fits into your schedule. You're like, oh, Colin, I can't fit 3 sessions in of strength training, and I can't do 4 sessions of cardio because that's my whole week. I don't have the time. That's okay. That's why, especially if you can work with me, we can develop a plan that's going to fit within your current routine. We can use the guidelines as just that, guidelines, a baseline, and try to weave things into your schedule that can be maintainable and that you can do consistently. All right. Other additional guidelines is going to be practicing good form to build a foundation, especially when starting out. Staying to higher rep ranges of closer to 10 to 15 is what I personally recommend and prescribe to people to make sure that they can build their foundation safely, focusing on the form versus trying to lift really heavy weight and not really knowing what they're doing. You want to start with that low weight, gradually increase over time. Your breath is also very important. So learning how to breathe is extremely important so that you're not holding your breath or forcing your breath through the exercise. Holding your breath is known as Valsalva's maneuver, and it increases the pressure on your thorax and abdomen, which can actually cause blood pressure to rise dangerously high very quickly. And it can cause dizziness, sometimes fainting, or make exercise more painful, inducing headaches or even a stroke. So breathing is crucial. Make sure we breathe. We need to breathe to live. Keep your movement slow and controlled, about 1 to 2 second counts or seconds on the duration of the exertion phase, or as our muscles are contracting, and 3 to 4 counts or seconds during the letdown phase or the eccentric phase. So making sure that we focus on control. Time under tension is important to grow our muscles. Rest. Muscles break down, they need to rest. They want to come back and build stronger. So 48 hours of rest between same muscle workouts. You can do workouts back to back. That's totally fine. But make sure your programming allows for you to switch up the major muscle groups. All right. For the standard breakdown of a strength training workout, before dynamic warm-up, there's going to be movements that are going to help prepare your body and your muscles for a workout. Get your heart rate elevated, increases your range of motion, such as walking, jogging, biking, squats, lunges, jumping jacks, things. Rhythmic movement is going to be what's beneficial pre-exercise. During your exercise, you always want to start working with, and this is all depending on your goal and your program, but large to smaller muscles first. So I'm always going to start working my chest muscle before I work my bicep or tricep, because I want to work multi-joint movements. So if you think of your arm, if I'm doing a bicep curl, I'm just moving one joint. If I'm doing a chest press, that's moving 2 joints, shoulder and elbow. Make sure you exercise from each main muscle group over the course of your week, depending on your program. You don't have to do everything in one day, but depending if you only have time for 1 to 3 strength training sessions a week, you might be looking at more of a full body plan for those 3 days, creating balance from our front, back, right to left sides. After your exercise, it's important that we have some form of cool down. Even 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you have it, will go a long way. That's the after form, more static holds for stretching. That's going to help increase not only our mobility, range of motion, but also our flexibility, which is crucial as we age. Foam rolling is also very beneficial. And I'd love to talk more about that if anyone has more questions on that. Now, the slide I'm really looking forward to, this one right here. So the types of strength training. Again, thinking in mind that your goal is to work muscles to complete fatigue. So there are 3 main types of strength training. You have endurance strength training. Each of these are going to be a little bit different. So your endurance is focused more on your muscles' ability to make repeated efforts. Endurance is going to be achieved through repetition. How many times can I lift a weight in succession? Muscle endurance is necessary to make multiple stairs, to carry groceries, to perform household chores continuously. So endurance is wonderful to incorporate into our routine. That is going to be around, and you'll see the set range is the same for all of these, 2 to 3, 2 to 6 sets of 12 to 16 plus repetitions for endurance. For your rest period, endurance, we're meant to challenge how quickly we can perform high volume, so lower weight, higher volume, so around 30 seconds or less is for endurance. So any of those HIIT workouts, circuit training, that's going to be more probably endurance work, because typically for that, our rest is going to be a little bit shorter, and that's going to help for muscle endurance. Now, as it comes to building overall strength, endurance is not the number one on the list. As we kind of go down, we get closer to the true strength, which is going to most have the greatest effect for our strength, but it will still increase our muscle in general. And it's good for our overall life. All right, then moving on to hypertrophy. So hypertrophy, specific targeting hypertrophy is going to be the increased size of an organ tissue, and that's usually due to enlargement of its cells. So for hypertrophy training, that's thinking of the growth of our muscle, increasing your muscle mass as you age. That's hypertrophy, growing those muscles. 2 to 4 sets. And the reason the sets are all the same is because it all depends on your programming. It could just be 2 sets for an exercise, could be 6, depending on there's lots of variables. And that's why I would love for people to work with me personally so I can develop that for you. Or if you have any questions about your plan, feel free to just send that over to me so I can help answer any questions you have. Or we can save that also for the end. But for hypertrophy, for your repetitions, now you'll notice that the reps increased, your rest decreased. So 7 to 10 reps is going to be the prime placement for increasing the size of our muscles for hypertrophy. Rest is no longer 30 seconds. We jumped up from 30 to a minute to 3 minutes. That's because it all comes back to intensity. We want to work our muscles to fatigue and have that last rep be very challenging. So in order to repeat the exercise set at the same intensity, set 1, set 2, set 3, all the way up to set 6, if that's what's in our plan, it's gonna be a longer workout because we're resting a minimum of 1 minute to 3 minutes in between every exercise set. So I could do 10 chest presses, and then I'm going to wait a minute, and I'm going to do that again. And that's specific hypertrophy training. For true strength, that is going to be when we are moving. You'll see the rep range dropped, the rest period increased again. True strength is not usually recommended or prescribed to the general population. You're working with very heavy weights, 1 to 6 reps. So that means I cannot physically lift a 7th rep. It is too heavy. Usually I stay away, and we'll get to the general recommendation, from true strength in most cases, depending on your exercise background, how familiar you are, and your form is going to need to be perfect for your strength training, true strength. Your rest period is 2 to 5 minutes. That's, again, to have our full central nervous system recover before we repeat that exercise load again. Now, takeaways, general recommendation. 2 to 6 sets of 6 to 12 repetitions. I always have people start out closer to 10 to 12. You can build that foundation. You can learn more about the weight you're going to move. Rest period between 45 seconds to 2 minutes. That is my standard block that I will give someone as they are starting to, depending if you've done nothing before or a little bit of strength training before, your entrance plan into strength training is 6 to 12 reps or 8 to 12. I like 10 to 12 for starting, and 45 seconds to 2 minutes of rest. That's going to be your standard recommendation that I personally like to give people. Now, days a week is going to be solely based on your fitness level, your goals, and your time available. As a beginner, it's recommended 2 to 3 days a week of non-consecutive days. So you'd have a rest day in between before working strength training again. As you move up to an intermediate, 3 to 4 days, they do not have to be non-consecutive anymore. And advanced is anywhere between 5 to 7 days a week. So it's totally fine to strength train 7 days a week. That is okay. It depends on your program and your fitness level. Those are areas that go into it. All right, so feel free to take a picture here if you need. Otherwise, we are moving on. Types of strength workouts. 3 main types, which I usually recommend: rest and repeat, circuit, and superset. For a rest and repeat, I'm going to do one exercise, rest, and repeat it. So it could be chest press, rest, chest press, rest, chest press, rest. If I'm doing 3 sets, great. 4 or 5, I'm going to do those, and then I'm moving on. For your rest and repeat, it is generally the best recommendation for if you have the time available for a strength training workout. Now, they all have their pluses or their negatives, but what it comes down to essentially is what do you enjoy and what can you fit into your plan? Consistency is going to be key to building strength, building endurance, building our muscle mass. So regardless of what we can fit in or what we enjoy, that is what I personally recommend and have people try to strive for. Circuit, that is going through A, B, C, D, E exercise, back up to the top. Now, for that one, you're going to rest in between each exercise. So A, rest, B, rest, C, rest. Finish down your list, back up to the top, repeat 2 to 4 times or whatever your exercise plan calls for. Superset, I'm going to do exercise A, exercise B, rest, repeat A, B, rest, and then move on. The benefits of supersetting is that we can kind of take out some rest time. Usually for that, you're going to do either two major muscle groups, but they're going to be different. So I'm going to do like a chest movement and a back movement, or a chest movement and a leg movement, so that your heart, your lungs are still pumping from the last exercise set before, but we're switching areas that we're working on so that we can continue moving or continue our strength training. And that's going to be our superset. All right. For moving to functional fitness. Functional fitness is wonderful, and I highly recommend it, and it is a great starting point. Best benefit of functional fitness is that exercise is going to use body weight. It's more incorporated here. Now, the reason why I didn't stress body weight before in the other forms of exercise is mainly because functional movement is excellent. It's good to incorporate as it pertains to strength or specifically growing muscle mass. It's not the best option there. The reason is for body weight. Now, starting out, especially if you went from inactivity or no movement, it's great. You can learn how to use your body, how to move your body, and slowly, and that will work right within probably your 6 to 12 rep range of intensity. And that 12th rep or that 6th rep could be really hard. Think of push-ups. Not everyone can do, crank out push-ups, which is great. So that's a wonderful place to start, or modify as needed. Once you start building strength, then we start moving out where body weight no longer can be called strength training and more functional fitness instead, because our rep range increase. So if I can do 20 push-ups and I only do 10, but I'm still hoping to see strength goals increase, I was like, okay, well, there's half the rep range that I could do. So instead, moving to something a little bit heavier, a weighted push-up or a chest press, for example, where I can increase that load. Now I'm back into that rep range. So functional fitness. Sorry, you can use your body weight. It's going to help increase your stability, supporting your own weight, and it's excellent because it can help lead to performing other exercises. Some of the methods used for that, it can help build core stability. Your core muscles are fully engaged in body weight movements, which is going to help provide strength and support your spine and other extremities. Your major muscle groups are going to be worked, as well as opposing muscle groups to the positions that your body goes through, supporting it properly. So it is important to build muscle and strength, and functional fitness is an excellent place to start for that. It can be important to prevent injury. And also on that prevention of injury is falling. There's really no such thing as fall prevention, but we can try to improve our balance, and we can also try to build up our functional fitness and strength so that when inevitably at some point when we do fall, our bodies can withstand it and we're able to get up more effectively. When it comes to functional fitness, you tend to use more multi-joint, multi-muscle exercises instead of only moving your elbows. For example, functional exercise might be involve your elbows, shoulders, spine, hips, knees, and ankle. And this type of training every day can make it more, make your body more effective at doing your standard bodily activities. All right, so a few types of functional fitness training: bodyweight squats, bodyweight lunges, opposite arm reach. When performing these exercises, form is going to be the utmost important. Biggest takeaway, because I'm not going to stay too long on these exercises, is that you have 3 pillars of form. You have your stance, which is your feet. You have your hips, and then you have your shoulders. If you master those 3 pillars, and those are in every single movement you can possibly think of, trust me, they are pretty much, I've thought of everything, and they always align. Always make sure your stance is set in the proper form. Make sure when it comes to our hips, core is engaged. And when it comes to our shoulders, set our shoulders, think up, back, and down. If we have those 3 pillars, that is the foundation of any exercise. And once we kind of get over that, we're able to confidently and competently work through any functional fitness or strength training. This is a standard, well, not a standard, but just a quick 30-minute cardio strength circuit. So feel free to take a picture of this if you want. But some of these cardio strength circuits is great because they can help develop strength, endurance for both aerobic and anaerobic. They can help increase your flexibility, coordination in one muscle set, in one exercise session. And circuits, they're important because they can also incorporate a large variety of exercises in a short duration of time. So that's your interval training. You can think of HIIT, and they also endurance training. It could possibly include cycling, swimming, rowing, but it's a great way to add a lot of variety and different intensities to incorporate is some sort of strength training. Great. Okay, so strength training at home. You do not need a gym membership, or equipment to exercise. That's again that functional fitness, or even depending on your program, you can use household objects. But strength training at home is very flexible. It's a gym-free environment. It can be time efficient. You're at home. We have a hybrid schedule here at Land O'Lakes, so the days you're at home, it's just kind of how can we navigate our schedule? Where can we put it in? Even if you break it up into a few sessions a day, that's totally fine. That works. And with that minimal equipment, you can use your body weight. You can use free weights if you have that available to you. Stability balls, medicine balls, resistance bands are also great ways to help up our strength training game at home. And also using gravity is another one to help with that. So stability balls, I know I'm going to try to get through the next bit here so we can get to questions. But for stability ball, so this actually started as PT for kids, and for picking the proper ball size, you want to make sure, because there's a wide range, that you pick a size. Think of your desk ergonomics, that when we are in a seated position on the ball, we have about a 90-degree angle in between our calves to our hips or at our knee bend, about 90 degrees there. You also can deflate the ball, because I know they can be large, to put it away when you're not using it if you feel it is in the way. But stability balls are a great addition to your at-home equipment. They're fairly inexpensive. They can be used for stretching, core stability, cardiovascular endurance, and strength exercise as well. And stressing the balance aspect. They can improve your balance, posture, body awareness, and coordination. And strength exercise can be performed on the ball, which kind of duels with balance or body control. I do want to say, though, that when it comes to balance and strength specifically, to maximize them, they should be separated. If you want to focus more, so if you do want to do balance and strength at the same time, balance should be more important than the weight we are using. Stability is more important for strength. When it comes to balance, you are unstabilizing yourself, meaning you should not be trying to perform high weight exercise movements while balance is a focus, or the primary focus. But on the stability ball, you can do body weight exercises or free weights. And I think that's your main bit about the stability ball. Resistance bands, excellent addition to your house. They can just fit in a bag. They can be taken everywhere for when you travel, which is crucial. I know a lot of people, they travel for work or vacations, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be gone for a week or two. I don't really want to stop all movement. Resistance bands can just come along with you. Usually, they're all going to come with different levels of resistance. We still want to think here, especially keeping strength in mind, of our complete the last rep to fatigue and focusing on intensity. So 12 to 15 rep range to failure is the recommendation. Now that goes back more to endurance, but that's okay because we're using resistance bands, but still try to stay within the 12 to 15 rep range and making sure that those last 2 to 3 really fatigue our muscles. Because if we only do 15 reps, but I could have done 40, well, we're not going to see the progress we're looking for because the intensity threshold is too low. 1 to 3 sets can be used for this. You can increase the resistance of the band needed to reach fatigue by either a stronger band, multiple bands at one time, or you can wrap the band, decreasing the length of the band around your hands or your feet, which is going to make it a stronger band. For your safety, bands do wear out, so watch out for holes, tears in your band. You want to make sure that you have proper wrist alignment. If I'm doing an exercise and my wrist is like that, that is not going to feel good. Or right here, that's not going to be great. Try to make sure that the hand is directly over the elbow. And make sure we have a good grip. So you can use handles or knots at the end if need be to make sure we have that good grip so the band does not slap back and hit us. That would not be comfortable. All right, so at the end here, feel free to put anything in the chat, but otherwise, please let me know if you have any questions. I do just want to state that if you have any other new questions about strength, any form of strength or nutrition, please make an appointment with me. Shoot me a message on Teams or my Outlook calendar, or Outlook in general, to ask about setting up a consultation, a one-on-one meeting, or for the creation of an exercise program. I would be very happy to walk through your current routine, your current program, make sure that it is aligning with your goals, or I can make a personal program for you that will fit in your routine with your plan, and it can be modified at any time. That all kind of floats back to the fitness center's $1 a day policy. So those consultations and exercise programs are all under the $1 a day policy. All right, but that concludes the strength webinar.